This is a girl chat video. So if you're not a girl, please skedaddle because we're talking about girly things.
Don't make me fall in love.
While we do this, I'm actually going to put makeup on since I don't have any. Let's start with, how was C-section recovery? With a C-section, do you still bleed down there and dilate, or is it all abdominal? So actually, I'll just start with the bleeding question. This is Fresh Rose Deep Hydration Facial Toner. This stuff is like amazing if you have really dry skin. So you do still bleed with a C-section, and I actually did not know that until I talked to my friend who had a C-section. And it makes sense because your uterus is still contracting the same as it would if you had a vaginal delivery. Mine has slowed down almost to the point of stopping after like 3.5 weeks. So I don't know if it's different if you have a normal delivery, but you do still bleed. Next question is, how was C-section recovery, or how is it going? Honestly, I had no expectations of like what this would be like. I really didn't know. And the soreness that you have in your abdomen and like in your lower stomach is definitely there. The first 2 weeks, I did not really leave the house much, and you walk really slow. Just because it's kind of, you're sore down there and just tender. The recovery in the hospital was definitely tough. Just not being able to like move in bed, and that was super annoying, not being able to get out of bed super easily. But that only lasts a couple days, and they give you heavy meds for that. So I'm gonna go in with the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint with SPF 40, and I use the color 7 and Diaz, and I just use my hands. Were you upset with having a C-section / were you scared? I was really upset. And I think what was so hard, not necessarily that I was like, I'm not having a C-section. It was more so, well, I did say that actually. I was so pissed, but mostly because I had just pushed for so long. I had pushed for 3.5 hours. I felt like I was so close to the finish line with pushing, because the whole time I was pushing, I actually had a mirror. So I could see his head like coming down and out, you know? And I was so frustrated because I knew that once we went into a C-section, that would be almost hitting the reset button on labor. And I just felt like I'd rather push for 2 more hours than go through a major surgery and recovery and have to do 2 labors. Good thing we made the decision, because there was no way CJ was coming out. He was so lodged in my bones. He was stuck both ways. Like, he wasn't going to come out this way, and they were having a really hard time getting him out this way also. So he was a big baby. He had a big head. The second part of that question was, were you scared? I wasn't necessarily, actually, yeah, I was scared. I remember being wheeled in, and I was just nervous about the fact that I was going to be awake during surgery. That gave me like a lot of kind of anxiety thinking about that, and scared that like, oh, maybe I'll feel things, which you don't. They take a lot of measures to make sure that you're not going to feel anything. Like, she literally took a pin and was like poking my stomach in different areas and was like, do you feel this? Do you feel this? And if I ever said yes, they would like bump up the meds. I was nervous that I was going to freak out, and then being in there, I was totally fine. Someone asked, how much weight did you gain during pregnancy? Currently pregnant and struggling with it. Okay, I'm going to use the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Under Eye Concealer, and this is in the color 100. I love this stuff. If you have dry under eyes, this stuff is the play. I will not say how much I actually gained, but I will say, if you're worried about it, I weighed myself 2 weeks after surgery. I had already lost 20 pounds, and I literally hadn't done anything except laying on the couch. You just think about how much weight's in your placenta, in the baby, and how much blood that you have, and just all the extra things that you're gaining in your body, all the fluids, all the puffiness, and just be patient with yourself and gracious. You're literally growing a baby and you're pushing out a baby, so don't be too hard on yourself. And afterwards, you're gonna feel so good after that baby is out. Yeah, it's shocking, honestly. These two questions kind of go hand in hand. Was labor easier or harder than you thought it would be? I am due in 10 weeks. Is birth and postpartum as bad as everyone says it is? This definitely is going to range like person to person. I had a very hard labor and delivery, and during it, I felt almost no pain because I had that epidural. The hardest part is more mental. I think just staying in it mentally was tough because it's such a long period of time. Like, labor is draining emotionally. Your body, you're just out of control of what your body's going to do. So you're kind of just along for the ride. And yes, I think just going through all the motions, honestly, was probably harder than like the physicalness of it. Now, afterwards, you do feel what your body went through physically. So postpartum is challenging. So, I mean, it is what it is, but you're made to do this. You'll be fine. You'll get through it. We are so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And I would say that I have a very low pain tolerance. So you're going to be fine. Let's do my blush, because I need to wash my hands. I hate feeling like makeup on my hands. So this is the Ilia At Last Multi-Stick. I love this. It blends beautifully. This color is like a berry color, and I'm just going to use it on my cheeks. Okay, so motherhood. How has breastfeeding been going? Actually, I'm so thankful it's been going really well, which I wasn't expecting. Truthfully, I feel like everyone talks about that being the hardest part, and it is hard. But I think where I had a hard time was getting used to the schedule of breastfeeding. We didn't have any issues with latching or him eating or gaining weight, which I'm so thankful for. More so, I was like, whoa, overwhelmed by just the commitment of how often these babies need to eat. But honestly, it took me 2 days and then I feel like we got into a good groove. I'm super thankful that we could make breastfeeding work because formula is so expensive. And if we couldn't breastfeed, we're going to be hurting. I'm going to have to make more money or something because formula is like crazy. Have you had any postpartum depression or anxiety? We hear a lot about postpartum depression and anxiety, which is amazing and needs to be talked about. And I think I just kind of expected that everyone goes through it. So I was expecting to have that a little bit, but not everyone goes through that and deals with that. So I'm thankful that I haven't, because I know you just don't know if you're going to or not. So I'm thankful that I haven't had any struggling with that. I will say, just naturally, your hormones you're going back to normal. So I'm not normally a crier, and I probably have cried a little bit every single day, maybe just for like a minute or two, but there's something every day that kind of I'm like, but that kind of stopped, I would say, after the first 2 weeks. I have had some intrusive thoughts, I will say, that I know is probably just because of hormones. For example, my little sister and I went shopping and she was pushing the stroller. I didn't have my eyes on CJ, and in my head, I like literally stopped and I was like, did I leave him in the car? Just that fear hit me really, really strong. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it for a little bit. I would say stuff like that has come up a couple times, but it's just thinking to yourself, okay, what is true? What is a lie? I'm not going to believe that. And my little sister even told me, like, getting into your senses, like smell the baby, touch him, like helping you get out of your like thought cycle. This question is, how do you feel about your body going through those changes? This is, I thought I was going to be very nervous about the body changes because I don't know if I've ever like really shared with you guys my past just with eating. And in college, I went through a period where I became like hyper obsessed with calorie counting, losing weight. I wouldn't say I ever had an eating disorder, but it was definitely a really disordered eating. And it wasn't really until after Caleb and I got married that I kind of swung the other way, and I felt like I was had a lot of binge eating cycles, and yeah, just kind of walking through that. So I was nervous that like, oh, gaining weight with pregnancy and then seeing my body change after might re-trigger some of those seasons that I went through before. But honestly, I feel like kind of a new sense of freedom with my body, where it's like I just went through this period of life. I'm expecting my body to change, and that's okay. I think it's just having the right expectations and not having unrealistic standards and giving yourself grace and time, and also just realizing that like our bodies and what they look like low on the importance of scale, and what's really important is our health. So not thinking about image, but thinking more about strength and health, so that we can live long, healthy, active lives with our babies. Let me go wash my hands. I literally wasn't going on to the next step because I was so like, I don't like my hands feeling sticky. The next questions are fun, just general life, younger self questions, and just general life questions. This is the bronzer I've used since literally high school. It's the NYX matte bronzer in deep tan. What's one thing you would tell younger girls about life to come, age 13 to 16? It breaks my heart hearing about just the younger generation right now and the levels of depression and anxiety that specifically females are feeling. I know it's both genders, but specifically girls. And I understand that because there's so much comparison online. And I just want to hug every little girl and teenager and just tell her this moment in your life is so short. And I'm now 27 years old, and in hindsight, I'm like, I don't even remember things when I was 17, and all the things that were such a big deal were big deals at the time. But now looking back, I'm like, man, I just wish I wouldn't have given that so much like sweat. Such a small season of your life. We have so much life to go, and it's going to be so much better. Okay, I love these period questions. I will share something. This question, I'll share this first. How did you use a tampon for the first time? It scares me so much. I was terrified to use tampons, and I was so paranoid about it. And I remember my mom bought me tampons too. I asked her if she could buy me a box to practice with, and she bought me cardboard tampons. And I couldn't figure out, this is embarrassing, I could not figure out how to put it in. I couldn't find where to put it in. Okay. So I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm lost. And she put it in for me. So don't be embarrassed by that. If you're scared, if you're confused, We all go through it. That was so TMI. But what is my most embarrassing period story? And when did you get your first period? I think I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, maybe. I was in 7th or 8th grade. Sad that I don't remember what grade. My most embarrassing period story, I don't remember. I've bled through my pants so many times, and I just don't really get embarrassed by things because I'm like, it just is what it is. Like, yeah, it just happens, and we can't control it, and I'm not going to be embarrassed by it. Here's what I used to do, and I think this is funny and a little embarrassing. There were multiple times in high school, okay, so I was a little bit older in high school, where I would wake up, and there would just be blood all over my bed. And I couldn't figure out why, because I would sleep with pads, and then I started eventually sleeping in tampons. But I would bleed almost like it would go down my, like I'm laying flat, it would like run down and go down like the back of my underwear, and it would just get all over my bed. So what I started doing is I would get maxi pads, and I would almost make myself like a diaper, a diaper out of them. I would put one normal, 2 across my butt along the back of my underwear, and then 1 across the front in case I rolled over, just because I hated waking up and having blood all over my sheets. So that's what I did. I think that's kind of funny. Not necessarily embarrassing, but kind of funny. This question is, what was your first kiss like? I was in 7th grade. 7th grade or 8th grade? Why do I not remember? I was in the late middle school. I was in 8th grade. I was definitely in 8th grade. And I had a little boyfriend that I dated for probably 2 weeks. And he texted me the day before and was like, I'm going to kiss you tomorrow. And I just remember being all day. I was so nervous. And before the last period of class, my friends gave me gum and chapstick. And he met me at my classroom, and we walked out to the bus line. And literally outside my bus, he said bye. And then he kissed me, just a little peck. And I remember being so like, oh my gosh, that just happened. And then I texted him after, right when I got on the bus, and I was like, so how was it? You know? And he said, good, but you need to put your lips out. So I think I literally kissed him like this. And so like, so that was funny, goofy, just a sweet little memory. And then I'm pretty sure he broke up with me like a week later. This is MAC Blush and Gingerly. Again, this is like a holy grail blush. I've used this since I was a senior in high school. I don't change things much. I'm a creature of habit. This girl asked, did you wait until marriage? How did you feel like waiting until marriage impacted your spiritual journey and marriage? Caleb and I started dating in high school. I was a senior and he was a junior. This year it'll be 10 years of dating. So we did not wait for a period. Well, in college, we both started pursuing our faith, and I joined a Bible study my sophomore year of college together as we started reading the Bible, asking questions, investigating our faith through these Bible studies. And through college, we actually made the decision to stop having sex and pursue purity. So that was a few years into our dating relationship, and it was the best and hardest decision ever of all time. And it definitely impacted our spiritual journey and our marriage in great ways. I wish we had waited from the very get-go. I definitely can see how having sex and dating clouded our judgment in different areas and different seasons of our dating life. I think once we stopped being intimate in dating, we had to learn how to love each other in different ways. When you can't show your love physically, you have to show it emotionally and with your time. I think it grew our trust with each other tenfold. It grew our communication tenfold. It was an incredible step that we took in our dating relationship. I think it also brought us a lot closer to God. Like when you're not living in sin, you have a freedom to express and worship and draw near to God in a way that is different. And making that decision and that sacrifice to stop doing that was hard. And we've seen the blessing of that in our marriage a lot too. Okay, this is the Tarte Blush Amazonian Clay in the color Peaceful. And I just put that on top for like a little pinky pop. But I'm going to pause on the makeup for a little bit because little man was just feeling a little fussy. This question, did you use birth control and what was your experience? I did. I switched from the pill to the NuvaRing once we were married just because I kept forgetting to take the pill. And I had a really good experience being on birth control. I didn't notice a ton of like shifts going on and off of it or a ton of side effects being on it. I will say going off, I noticed a huge jump in my energy levels, and I definitely prefer to be off of it just because I prefer not to be on medicines and stuff, but I will be going back on the NuvaRing here once I'm like at my 6-week checkup because at this point with my complications and surgery and C-section, it's really important that I don't get pregnant for at least a year and a half. So I will be going on it just to be extra cautious. I love this question. What's your best advice in not worrying about what others think about you? Pretty much for a lot of my life, I really have not worried about what people think about me. And here's always been my mindset. One, no one is actually looking at me. No one's looking at what I'm wearing, what I look like today, what I said, and they're not harping on it. They could literally care less because everyone's consumed with their own insecurities and their own thoughts. So I just remind myself, I'm like, literally no one cares what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna just be myself. Okay, here's the second one. In public, I'm never gonna see these people again. And if I do, whatever, who cares? This question, do you have lip fillers? And what is your opinion on filler/plastic surgeries? I don't. I actually used to get made fun of in middle school for having big lips, and now everyone's paying for big lips. So girls, if you're made fun of for something, it could be something later that people really desire. I had Botox once in the past. I won a gift card to a med spa and a raffle. So I went and did it. I think there's a lot of verses on vanity and not caring about what we look like and things like that. Just going back to your heart motive of like, why am I doing this? I think is important, and just be prayerful with it. There's no verse in the Bible that says you cannot do this. So I think it's more of just like a conviction and where you're at. And I think if you say you got it and you feel like your motives are pure, then that's great. And if you don't, and that's your conviction, then that's also correct. Okay, this is the last question. And sorry I didn't finish my makeup, but we got most of it done. But baby just needed some attention, so that's more important than my makeup. How to get into exercising again when you're the most out of shape you've ever been? And I feel this question, and I feel like it's a good one to land on. Getting back into fitness is, I'm very curious if you guys have had a C-section. Just comment below what that looked like for you, like getting back into working out, and yeah, just how slow am I going to have to take it? Because I have like the mindset where I'm like, oh, once I'm cleared, I'm going to get out and run 3 miles, and I just know that that's not even possible, because I still struggle to get out of bed in the morning at times. So how to get back into exercise, I think just taking it slow, just scheduling a time where it's like, okay, after work, I am not going to go home until I stop at the gym. Now, whether you're at the gym for 10 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. I think just putting that in your routine is a good and important. And then I think it's just finding what you enjoy, whether that's just walking on the treadmill, going to a class with your friends. I think if you have something that you enjoy doing, you will become addicted to the way that you feel after working out. Like, I always feel so much better. Like, I enjoy working out in the afternoons, not the mornings, because I hit that 3 p.m. slump and I work out and then I have energy for the rest of the evening. And incentivizing yourself, like, I'll save my favorite podcasts for when I go on walks or runs. And I'm excited to listen to the podcast and run. I don't know. Those are just a few of my tips, but I would love to know what your tips are at post C-section, because I'm right there with you. And I will be the most out of shape I've probably ever been, and we'll be getting back into it together. That's all, you guys. That's the girl chat. I hope I wasn't rambly. I hope this was fun to listen to. Thanks for asking your questions. They were so good. Sorry I didn't finish my makeup, but we got the skin done, so we look alive today. Thank you guys for following along. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things, and have a really good rest of your day.